Hey, how's it going today? What we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of do a little bit of an informational take on lanyard options that are available in arboriculture. Been quite a few new developments, over the years. Probably where we'll start out is the one that's folks are most familiar with. And the reason they're doing this is for first-time buyers and also to show experienced users some options maybe they're not aware of. We're all familiar with wire core Fliplines, as they're called, lanyards, work positioning belts. These are wire core. They're commonly covered with a 16 strand or a 12 strand textile rope jacket. One option is that they actually have a eye splice, a wire eye splice. The swage is just there to crimp down the jacket to keep it from moving around. This is a Yale 5/8 lanyard. When we talk about our wire core lanyards, where the term Flipline came from is because of the rigidity, they will flip up the trunk very easily, okay? The other advantage to the wire core in actuality is from our large diameter trees on the west coast. When you get on a 4, 5, 6 foot diameter stem and larger, you're not going to be able to flip. You have to do what's called a western roll, and the body or the hand of the wire core lanyard is key to allow you to be able to do that. It's going to be really difficult to do with your soft textile lanyards. And then commonly what we use as an adjuster or a grab on our wire core lanyards is just simply a rope grab. One of the first ones that I know of was the Gibbs rope grab. We all used to use those. Now we've got smaller, more compact units, and the way that they'll work is when you push forward on the cam, that will go forward. When the cam gets loaded, it grabs, and that's what allows you, when that's connected on each hip D and you lean back, that's what holds you in position. And we'll show you some demonstrations on a field tree here shortly. So that's a wire core lanyard. The common sizes are 5/8. We'll start at the beginning. The common sizes are 1/2 inch, 5/8, and 3/4. A lot of folks, myself included, prefer the 5/8 and the 3/4 inch diameters because the larger diameter is easy to grip in your hand. It's going to be less fatiguing. There's some sport versions that are even down into 7/16, and they're lighter weight and trimmer, but they're going to be more fatiguing on your hands, and that's not going to be as noticeable on your smaller diameter stems. But when you do get into large trunks, it's all forearms, and so to be able to have something that's easier for you to grip is really critical. And that's why you'll see the guys that are commonly climbing big trees, they're using 5/8 and even 3/4. There's still old timers that are running 1 inch manila, and the reason being it's really easy on your hands and it rolls very effectively. So as I said, you can put a cammed adjuster on there, which is very common, or you can also form a prusik on your lanyard, and we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of both of those when we get in the field. So another option we can go to get away from the weight and the rigidity of our wire core lanyard is we can go with a soft textile lanyard. And this particular one is made out of a cut resistant rope, so it's extremely cut resistant. It's lightweight. It has pretty good hand. On this one I've got a mechanical adjuster as well, and you can rig it up with a prusik and slack tending pulley system exactly like your double rope climbing system. We'll talk about that in a minute. So one of the advantages of this type of lanyard is this is extremely cut resistant. It's lightweight. It will function as a short rope if you need it to. I've got a carabiner termination on this, which is what I prefer. Here we have another textile lanyard. This is a 16 strand rope, and on here is a new mechanical adjuster that's similar to the zigzag. This is called the Xeon, and it functions the same way. When you want to give yourself slack, just pull downwards on it. When you want to take up slack, so it's nice and smooth and slick. And again, you get the benefit of the lightweight, the soft hand, and this can also be used as a short climbing line. This is another option. Some folks still use it. I don't know the exact history. What I surmise is that guys came up with the 2-in-1 lanyard, as we'll call it. So you'll look and you'll see we have a snap on one end of the line, and we have a snap over here on the other end of the line, and then we've got pitch guard in between. So what this allows with this prusik is I'm clipped in there, I'm clipped in there. I have the ability to adjust this lanyard when I weight the prusik. Obviously it grabs. That gives me the ability to have that lanyard there. Now let's say I need to pass an obstruction. I can just simply grab the other end of my lanyard, throw it around, clip it in before I unclip my primary tie-in. So it allows you to always stay tied in. And as I said, what I surmise is where this came about, folks still weren't climbing with a rope system. You know, the split tail system, as it were, wasn't commonplace 15 years ago. And this was an option for guys, for them to safely stay tied in rather than carry two separate lanyard systems with them. And we'll demonstrate using this in the canopy as well. And then another option that's quickly gaining favor, and a lot of us here in the West use it, is what we call a long lanyard system. So you know, most of you will see that and recognize that. That looks very similar to the double rope climbing systems that you use. We've got a carabiner on the terminal end of our line. We've got a prusik hitch, a slack tinning pulley, and a carabiner to connect it. So either that could function as a traditional split tail system. It also functions as a lanyard. The one benefit that you get is here we've got a 35-foot lanyard in this little bag. This is also a short climbing line. So it facilitates movement in the canopy and gives you a lot better work positioning options because you're effectively double crotching with your lanyard when you need to. As far as attaching your cammed devices, this is another option. So if you look at this cam device on the rope, and then look at that cam device, the eye here, see how that's running parallel with your line? Here, the same, functioning the same, it's just a different device. They've got the eye turned 90 degrees. And so what that does is if you choose to use a carabiner, it has the lanyard positioned correctly. Just perfect for you. Another thing that a lot of us do, if we don't have the turned 90 degree eye, is we'll use a twisted shackle, and you want to use the WesSpur's locking ones. They have a detent that when you turn it in, it actually locks that pin. And this was how we solved the problem of having this eye not oriented correctly. So now, when this is on our hip D, that's just oriented perfectly for us to be able to grab it right there. And you can still, if you choose, run a carabiner to connect your rope grabs. What I suggest to folks, if you're going to do that, is use the HMS shaped carabiner, because this wide gate here, wide nose, allows you some movement to have that be positioned correctly, and then that tight base there keeps it positioned on your hip D. And when you use these, what I recommend, and I'll show you in the tree, is that the body of the rope grab is facing down, and then that makes it easy for you to operate it. So that's kind of a real quick overview of the basic lanyard setups. Here's another prusik with a snap on it. It just doesn't have the benefit of the swivel. And as I said, you could use this as your rope grab versus a mechanical cammed adjuster. Or what works really slick is the slack tinning pulley system. So we'll go out here in the sun and we'll show you how these all function. Alright, so I just wanted to show you real quick. So this is the wire core. One of the reasons, one of the benefits of it and why it gets called a Flipline as a slang term is it flips up really easy, flips down really easy because of the rigidity of the lanyard. And as I said, when you're on larger diameter trunks, this body really facilitates doing a roll, okay? So these rope grabs, you can see how it's positioned here with the twisted shackle, okay? The advantages are it's simple, it grabs every time when it's weighted, it's just a cam. Once the cam gets, you know, levered, it's going to pinch the rope between the cam and the shell of the device, all right? You can take up slack with one hand. You just grab below the device and you can just take up slack that way, okay? Now to give yourself slack with these, you have to hold, bleed some slack in, right? So it becomes a two-handed operation, because if you try to, so I'm on my safety line here, so you know I'm leaned back. If I go to give myself slack with one hand, it's kind of jerky, it's not smooth, all right? And always, when you're making adjustments on your lanyard, you want to be in the neutral position, particularly with these cam devices. So neutral being coming out horizontal off of my hips, okay? That's somewhat of a negative position. That's a positive position, and a lot of times guys will think that's the better way to make an adjustment. It's not. You want to be in neutral, okay? And as I said, there I've got, you know, quite a bit of slack. I can spin around the trunk and do whatever it is I need to do. So that's your wire core lanyard. Another plus for the cammed, you know, the mechanical adjusters, is they sort of don't care about pitch. You know, from your coniferous trees, your pines, your firs, trees of that nature, they're not going to care as much about the pitch because it's mechanical. It's still going to grab. It may get a little bit sticky, but it's easy to clean. Not a big deal. So again, that's a good option for your wire core lanyards. Now something else I want to show you. With some of these, so this is 5/8, so this is at the upper end of the range for this adjuster. But let's say I had 1/2 inch in there. It's kind of hard to do, but this can slide a little bit either way when it's unloaded. So if I had a 1/2 inch lanyard in here, or even a 7/16, when they're hanging slack like this, that'll happen to you sometimes. So that's another, I guess you want to say, disadvantage of the cammed adjuster. But the way, see how that was just sliding down? The way a guy can mitigate that is just keep him some weight there, okay? So that's your wire core. So what I've got here is an Ascension group lanyard, and this is effectively just a rope lanyard. It's made out of super static. It has a double action snap on the terminal end. I can show that to you. So it's got a nice, easy to operate double action snap there. A 28-inch eye-to-eye prusik that's tied in a distal formation with a slack tending pulley. I really like this type of setup. So there I am in the neutral position. One of the big pluses for me and a lot of other folks with this type of setup, not only do we have a lighter weight lanyard, it's easy to move around the canopy with. You know, you can hang your tail there to keep that out of your way, or daisy chain it if you need to. But the one slick thing about these, this is just like your double rope system, whether you're climbing with a VT, distal, what have you. It's a friction hitch with a slack tending pulley, okay? So if I want to give myself slack, it's a one-handed deal, right? If I need to take up slack, it's a one-handed deal, and that's really handy. It's less fatiguing, it's easier to operate. You don't need to do the two-hand thing like you do with the rope grab. Just everything is right there, ready to go. It's high speed. The other advantage to this, okay, so kind of try to ignore my my double rope system I have in place. Let's say you've reached your high tie where your double rope is, and now you're gonna have to leapfrog through the canopy, all right? So the advantage of this is, you don't wanna leave it on your hip Ds. Bring it over, rig it on your bridge, okay? Okay, so now I've got a short climbing line. This is going to allow me to take up slack, advance myself higher in the tree, reposition my climb line, and we can leapfrog that way. So that's one, in my mind, real big advantage of having this system of adjustment on your lanyard, particularly when it's a textile setup. And always make sure that the rings that you're putting that on are rated. A lot of our harnesses have rigging plates for terminating the bridge. The new Triostria has sewn rated loops. So you can see how that nice little, 10-foot lanyard, 12-foot lanyard is just nice, compact, lightweight, super smooth. Great for pruning. Kind of a misconception that folks have is that the wire core lanyards are for chainsaw protection. That's not the case. The biggest reason the wire was in there was to give the lanyard body back in the old days, and what it did do was afford you a little bit of protection, because they used to bump limbs with an axe. Remember, these guys were going up, knocking limbs off, rigging their spar trees and their tower trees, and topping them out with a handsaw, back in the day. If you tension a steel core lanyard, you'll blow right through it with a top handle chainsaw with a good chain, like that. And I've done tests, and it's literally thousandths of a second difference between a fiber lanyard and a wire core. And actually the Tri-Tech will resist chainsaw cutting quite a bit more than a wire core lanyard. So don't, it's kind of a placebo thinking that that's there for protection from the chainsaw. It's not. You shouldn't be running the chainsaw near your lanyard anyway. That's a big problem in and of itself. So there you go. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is the 2-in-1 lanyard, and this is still popular with a lot of folks. Unfortunately, here in the Pacific Northwest, we don't have a lot of spreading canopy trees. But I'll try to explain another way to utilize this system. So ignore my rope system. I like climbing with a rope. That's just how I am. But pretend that that's not there. Let's say it's 1980. All right. All I climb with is a piece of rope because I tie a closed system with a taut line. And then I got tired of packing around 2 lanyards. Okay. So I come up. I'm spurring up here. Going up. Oh, what is that? I've hit an obstruction. So you have 2 options. You could be silly. You could belly in, try to hang onto the tree, unclip your lanyard and throw it around. Clearly you could see the foolishness in that endeavor. Okay. So my other option is take my lanyard, the other end. Okay, remember this has got a snap on each end with the Prusik adjuster in the middle, okay? So I throw this over my obstruction, all right? Clip it in. I like to clip it in above the D-ring that I'm going to replace, okay? Get that adjusted up where you like it. So now I can unclip that lanyard that I was using, and I've passed that obstruction while staying tied in the whole time, okay? The reason that worked pretty smooth is I have the Prusik is on a swivel snap, okay? So I'm going to come up here to this next obstruction so you can see. Alright, so I'm going to repeat the process. I don't want to unclip but I want to pass this obstruction that's here on my left side. On your right side as the viewer. So again, I'm going to snap that snap in, all right? So I know and all I did there is because I'm reversing the direction of the lanyard, I have to take up slack, okay? And now I'm ready to unclip and we can continue on. So that's an advantage of this 2-in-1 system if your climbing style is such that you're not using a rope system, which I'm a huge advocate for, okay? Allows you to get down to the ground. You don't need 2 lanyards because effectively in this one lanyard you have 2 lanyard systems. These particular ones have some chafe sleeve on there, and what we use that here in the Northwest, it's just a little bit of protection from pitch, because you know normally that's going to be what's around the bowl of the tree. As you get higher, you know, particularly in true firs and Douglas fir as well, up high in the top of the tree there'll be little pitch bubbles, and your lanyard pops those and gets all sticky, and that'll bring us up to the downside of a prusik adjuster. I like them because they're slick and smooth. This doesn't have the benefit of having a slack tending pulley on it. With the 2-in-1 system, we can't have that. It's just not an option. So your prusiks are going to get pitched up, and when they get pitched up, they don't function well at all. So you're constantly having to switch out prusiks or clean them at night with Gojo. I'll take up the slack on my climb line. And then it's the same thing. So with this, when you want to take up slack, it literally becomes a 2-hand operation for you to run the prusik. You can give yourself slack with one hand, but to take up slack, you're going to have to pull the tail, belly in, and slide that prusik to adjust it. Because you don't have the benefit of that slack tending pulley to give you the 1-hand operation. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take up slack. I'm going to show you something here. So as I said, this is a swivel snap. Same thing, you just form an English prusik, a 3-wrap minimum. Okay. Okay, so we're back in the same place. I've got an obstruction here that I need to pass, so I do the same thing. Take the other end of my lanyard, pass it around the trunk, over the obstruction, clip it in my left D-ring in my application, above the one I'm tied in with. And then so you see all that slack there? That's what we're going to have to adjust out before we switch to this side. Okay, so I'm ready to unclip. And I've passed the obstruction. Alright, but what that started to do, it might be hard for you to see here, but because I didn't have the benefit of the swivel, that one time I flipped over, I've already started to cam the nose of my snap into my hip D. So everybody kind of see what's going to happen there? So you have 2 options. You have to keep track. The next obstruction, if I throw that over like that, when I adjust, I'm going to be putting another twist in, okay? So the way you gotta be mindful of that. And this next time I do it, I'm going to come underneath like that, and it'll reverse that one twist that I put in. Does that make sense for everybody? It's just a slight downside to not having the swivel snap. It's not absolutely necessary, but in your operations, you have to be mindful of how to deal with that. So that's your 2-in-1 lanyard system. In regards to the 2-in-1 lanyard system, another option is you can get a Gibbs Climb Air. And it's basically a bi-directional cam device with a swivel on it. So it'll facilitate using the 2-in-1 system with that Gibbs. It already has a swivel, it's nice and compact. And then you get the benefit of it's not going to be affected by pitch as much and chunks of bark and things of that nature. It's going to cost you a few more dollars though. And then the other thing about the Gibbs, to find the sweet spot for adjustment, it's again going to be a two-handed operation, but it works effectively. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you now is the viability of the long lanyard system, and this is a Chinook lanyard that I have here. So got 30 feet of lanyard in this bag, so that effectively gives me, you know, a 15-foot double rope system, slack tending pulley, distal hitch, oval carabiner, oval wire eye carabiner, and then I've got a thimble prusik on there, which I'll be able to show you how to use that. And in conjunction with this, I'll show you the Arborist cowtail. What I'll do is when I'm testing gear, I'm climbing alone, I only get my high tie to wherever it is, 125, 130, 90, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Because as long as I have branch structure above there, I'll just leapfrog with my cowtail and my long lanyard till I get to where I want to go. Either dragging another double rope system with me, advancing my fixed line, or I'll just reverse the process and just do multiple station lower offs with my long lanyard until I get back to the fixed line. So what I'm going to show you here is just pretend like I don't have any rope above me. So I'm at the termination where my fixed line ends. So what I like to do, first thing, is I'll install my cowtail, and I got an overhead tie-in just to show you. So I'm slack on my unisender, okay? And for this demonstration, I'll even so I'm off my unisender. So I'm hanging here. I got one tie-in, so you can think of this as a lanyard. I'm lanyarded in with my cowtail. So my long lanyard, I can run it two ways. I can run it as a traditional lanyard off of my hip Ds, or I can bring it into position here on my central tie-in point. Okay? And I'm just going to use it as a short double rope. So now I can remove my cowtail and I can leapfrog my way up the canopy like this. As I'm tied in, I'm safe. Go to another stage, install my cowtail. The reason I'm doing that is we're always tied in twice, yes? So now, disconnect my lanyard, throw it up higher. Pick up slack. Now I'm on my long lanyard or my short double rope system. Right? So let's say, I want to get a little bit better work position. I feel like this is awkward. I can do two things. I can slide my prusik up. And just having that on that 1D gives me the stability I want. So now, you know, I'm stable to reach out here. Do what I need to do, okay? That's one option. The other one is I can run it in the traditional lanyard configuration. All the excess is here in my bag out of the way. So the long lanyard, you know, it makes it really easy to get good work positioning. Effectively, it is a short double rope system, and it comes in really handy, particularly in your larger canopies. It's a key component for pick-off systems, for aerial rescue. If you have to do a one-person pick-off, it's super easy to create a mechanical advantage to lift the patient out of his climbing system, transfer him to the lowering system. So that's the Chinook long lanyard. And all this has been kind of an overview of the different lanyard styles that are available in arboriculture. And all these products are obviously available at WesSpur Tree Equipment.